Welcome to the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast with your hosts Griffin Palmer, CJ Hickman, Jason Cabrera, and Ryan Mitchell.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is Friday, June 30th. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast. I'm your host, Griffin Palmer, joined always over the phone by my co-analyst and co-host, CJ the Hitman Hickman and Jason Cabrera. What is up, guys?
What's up, man?
What's up, Griffin?
Not much, guys. How's it going?
Doing good. Doing good.
Yeah.
It's almost July. We're almost into training
day.
camp. Oh, it has been a long day. I've been up for exactly 21 hours so far. How about you guys?
I don't know about that much, but my neck has been kind of stiff a little bit.
Alrighty then.
I don't know if that's a thing.
Yeah.
Guess I'm just hustling
Stiff
hard.
neck,
I don't
sure.
know. But at least we're close to training
I had
camp.
to drive
The off season's almost over. It's exciting, right?
It
No.
is exciting.
It's not exciting. It's not. It's
no,
going
it's not
slow. It's going slow, man. It's not moving fast. Look, the top 100, it helps. But, now we got all or nothing coming up. So, it's a little better, but it's still just going slow, man. Slow.
I'm so excited for All or Nothing, and only because I really want to see they basically showed it already on NFL Network, the Jeff Fisher getting fired bit. But
Oh yeah.
other than that, there's not much I really want to see. So
Not really. I guess you can see the progression of Jared Goff and what happened with Case Keenum. When they had tapped him on the shoulder, go like, hey, we're gonna go ahead and start the rook.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that could be good, but I don't know. And then we could see the breakdown with Todd Gurley. Because
True.
He was very disgruntled about everything that was going on with that offense.
Yeah.
He basically
Well,
what did he call it? He called it a playground style offense that they do.
Something
He
like
said
that.
something.
Oh,
He
boy.
took a shot. He took a shot at the offense. Something. He said something about it.
I'm more excited to get to the Buccaneers for this season.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's down the line. Actually, when does that come out? Is that soon? I should look that up. I should know this. I know it's got to be
I think
soon.
It's probably August.
Yeah,
I think it comes out after All or Nothing.
Well, obviously it's like a week or so behind what's actually happening, so it's not going to actually start airing until after training camp. But I think it's like a week or two into training camp you see the first episode. We'll have to look it up. That's a month away, but I'm excited. We're almost through the off season. It feels like it's kind of flown by, but also not really at all. So it is what it is. But let's get on to the show. We have an amazing show for you guys today. Today we're going to be doing an in-depth breakdown of our most recent mock draft. Of course, also bringing you top headlines from around the league, which is kind of laughable because there's really no news to talk about. But we'll bring you what we have. Of course, make sure you guys subscribe to the show on iTunes or Stitcher, whatever podcast system you are using to listen to us. Subscribe, rate, review. Helps the show out a lot. You can follow us on Twitter at the FF Fanatics, Facebook at facebook.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. You can email your questions to thefantasyfootballfanatics@gmail.com. Visit the website at thefantasyfootballfanatics.com. So many cool things you can do. So many ways to get in touch with the show. You can also support the show at patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Help us keep the lights on. Get yourself some cool bonus perks, including bonus shows every single week. And as we have been mentioning very constantly, if you want to play against us in fantasy football this coming season, all you have to do is submit for our iTunes Listener Review Challenge. All you have to do, head over to iTunes, give us a rating, give us a review, and you're automatically entered to be randomly selected to play against us in fantasy football this season. Just leave a Twitter handle or an email address at the end of your review so we have a way to reach you should you be selected. So we're going to move into our warm-up question of the day, and this one comes in from Michael on YouTube. Very constant contributor over there. Very fun person. We've known him. He's been with the show pretty much since the beginning, I think. And his question is, he was supposed to be in our Listener League last year, but he didn't get back to us in time. So Michael.
Didn't get back as a man. You got to stop messing with them girls, man.
Tisk
They come
tisk.
to trouble.
Uh-huh.
Come to trouble, man.
His question is, I'm in a 2-flex spot league this year. It's my first year doing this type of league. It's a PPR league. I have the 9th spot in a 12-team league. What's a good draft strategy for me? So he's got a 1-2-2-1-2 system. So 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 flexes, which are running back, wide receiver, tight end, and then obviously kicker, defense, bench. So right off the bat, I have to say it's a full point PPR. You are able to put wide receivers, obviously double flex. I have to say that you're drafting 9th, so I would probably go, depending on what's available to you, if you can get yourself a stud running back and just kick the running back position for a long way down the line, especially if you can get yourself a pass-catching back. Somehow LaShawn McCoy makes it to you, someone like that. Grab him, and then I would be honestly going receiver for the next 4 or 5 rounds. But that's personally me. I want to fill out all those starters because the running backs, most of them, once you get past the 3rd round, aren't catching many balls, and the wide receivers have I think a higher floor. Obviously a higher ceiling in PPR. What are your guys' thoughts here?
I agree with you. I think he should be looking at a stud running back, whoever's there, that's in a high power offense that's going to get the touches. And then after that, absolutely go get you some wide receivers. I mean, 4-point PPR, that's going to be great. So, I mean, you can pick up, I know a guy that I love, he's in the slot, he's getting that money, and that's my man Juice. So I think you should try to go get after him. Later down the road, probably round 3 or 4, probably go get you some Larry Fitzgerald. He's a target machine. So those are kind of receivers I'm thinking about right there. And then go get you some that's double flex. Even the tight end position, man. You go get you somebody there. That's going to be good points for you too. So I like this league. It's interesting to me.
It's very interesting, and definitely maximizes the pass catching options, and like what Griffin already mentioned, definitely go out and look for yourself for a pass catching back, a Doug Martin type or a Joe Mixon, or somebody that's going to be available, probably 3rd, 4th round that can catch a lot of passes. But otherwise, go out and get those stud receivers that are in the slot that just rake in tons and tons of catches. And get yourself as many points as possible. Fitzgerald's a perfect example of that. Most receptions in the league last year. So, you'll be looking for those kind of guys and just load up on them, man. And in this particular case, I would completely agree with Griffin where you push push that quarterback down and just load up on all those pass catchers.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we don't want to tell you to stick strictly to a system. You've got to let the draft come to you. But I mean, you're talking about a team and a league where you're getting full point for PPR, so you got to load up on those guys. And since you can start 4 receivers, 2 running backs, and a tight end, this is where again, my strategy is to wait on, like Jason said, the quarterbacks and so on, because you want to fill up as much depth as you can, because that's going to be a lot of guys to be streaming in and out of there. You've got a whole extra position. I mean, our league of record has 2 flex, but it's got 3 wide receivers, so that's something we're used to, but we do auction. So let's see, around the 9th pick in standard leagues, I mean, right now, Mike Evans, that's where he's going, so I would say probably grab him if he's there. But running backs going right around there. LaShawn McCoy, obviously, big pass-catching back. Melvin Gordon, they didn't bring anyone else to fill the Danny Woodhead role, so I imagine he's going to get more volume to the passing game. Devontae Freeman catches a good amount of passes. I mean, if I could grab any one of those guys and then turn around in the 2nd round and be grabbing, Jordy Nelson's going there, Michael Thomas, A.J. Green might slip. He's been dropping a little bit in ADP as of late. T.Y. Hilton, I mean, you could 1-2 whatever way you want through those first 2 rounds, and then, they were saying, wide receiver, Bilal Powell. What?
54 receptions.
He was mentioned.
Oh well, yeah, but I'm not looking for Bilal Powell until many rounds later. Don't draft Bilal Powell in the 2nd round.
I wasn't saying the 2nd round.
Okay.
As far as pass catching running backs, that's one of them.
Okay,
late round value maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna say you scared me there for a second, Jason. I was like, why would he draft
2nd round?
Bilal Powell?
I thought we were just naming off the
no.
out of the backfield.
No, I was gonna say Bilal Powell's a 7th round pick right now. Why would you do that? Okay, I get what you're saying now. All right. Let the draft come to you in the first 2 rounds. Take whichever is better, but you want to grab a high-end running back to start, and then I would, like we've been saying, fill out those receivers, because that's going to be what your entire team is going to be based around, your pass-catching core. And, the running backs, they get hurt more frequently. Wide receivers do get hurt, but it's more common with running backs, and this is PPR league, so you want those receptions, especially in full points. So hopefully this helps, and best of luck to you, bud. No real headlines to get to today, just one little bit of news that Zach Orr, who was the Baltimore Ravens leading tackler, we reported way early in the offseason that he had to retire because he had a condition with a problem in his neck. And turns out he's been cleared by doctors actually to return, so he's currently a free agent. Big tackling machine who's got interest from about 5 different teams right now, so I'm hoping he comes back to Baltimore. If you play in IDP leagues, watch where he goes. Again, he led the Ravens in tackles, so that's what you want. That's what we've been talking about for the last 3 weeks over on the Patreon show, is these tackling machines. So Zach Orr, a guy to monitor for sure. So with that, let's see, how are we doing? We are 10 minutes in, so we have plenty of time to recap this. Let's dive right into our topic of the day, which is our mock draft review. So let's start off with, what were your initial thoughts on your teams, guys? Obviously, we recapped the teams to sign off last week, but we didn't really dive into it. Does anyone want to go first? Any thoughts about your teams that stood out to you? Do you like your teams?
I mean, I like everything except for my quarterback, and then my running backs are a little. I'm definitely gonna have to make some trades. Definitely that.
You want to run down your team? I've got it typed out for you.
Yep. Okay, sure. I got Eli Manning as my quarterback, Samaje Perine and Bilal Powell as my running backs. I have Mike Evans, Michael Thomas, Tyreek Hill, Zach Ertz, Robert Aguayo, Landon's defense, and then my bench is Kareem Hunt, Darren Sproles, Alvin Kamara, Jarvis Landry, Willie Snead, and Adam Thielen. It's my bench.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously you went super hardcore 0 RB. You didn't draft your first non-wide receiver until the 6th round, I think?
Yeah, the 5th round is when I finally, after the 6th round is actually when I finally started drafting running backs.
I mean, you have a pretty outstanding starting group of wide receivers. But yeah, You're hoping for a lot to bounce your way. Samaje Perine still needs to get that starting job. Bilal Powell, by all accounts, we're hearing it's going to be more and more of a timeshare from what we heard earlier on the offseason. But, I mean, your flex position is obviously set. You have young up-and-comer and Kareem Hunt, which could get a lot of carries. I mean, for all we know, he might win that starting job, so that could be your nice guy to stream in and out. I mean, you could make this work, but when it's all said and done, I think we're all safe in saying you wouldn't.
I want to open a present.
Oh yeah. I don't think that 0 RB was as kind to you as you would have liked. You don't have any studs at running back.
I didn't expect it to be. I mean, this is what happens. Now, look, I would say that. I mean, I'm gonna get into this. I think that first it had me. I definitely would do something totally different because I'm going to be drafting in the league. Later on when it's draft time with these guys, man, I'm drafting in the 9th pick. So it let me get a feel of what's going to be available to me around that time, you know, at the 9th. Plus, if I think this strategy would work best for people that can be able to work the room when it comes to like the people that you're drafting with. If you get these guys, because when I'm looking at Tyreek Hill and Jarvis Landry, even though I love Juice, I'm gonna take the upside with Tyreek Hill coming into this season, man, just because basically he's gonna be the guy there. I see Andy Reid gonna every chance he get to try to get the ball in this boy's hands. So I like that upside, and I actually would probably try to deal Jarvis Landry and try to go get a number 2 running back if I could, or if I can package him with somebody. Even Willie Snead, I probably would. If this is a team I would go into, I probably would wait maybe 5 or 6 weeks into that. If I'm really confident and believe in Willie Snead, I probably would trade him, and I could probably get some good value when it comes to him. I probably can get maybe 2 players for him, depending on the team and if it's needy. So I think this strategy will work for somebody that can be able to work the room and make some good trades.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, obviously, you went to the the maximum of 0 RB, where most people who say I went 0 RB usually go 2 to 3 rounds before they start drafting the running backs.
That's just not a thing. That's just you taking best player available.
Exactly.
0 RB.
But I mean, at that point, you would have taken Mike Evans, Michael Thomas, Tyreek Hill, and then you'd be sitting there in the 4th. And I mean, obviously, which way was it going? 1, 2, 3, 4. So you could have grabbed Carlos Hyde there. You could have grabbed LeGarrette Blount, Eddie Lacy, the guys that would have been available to you. Doug Martin, Adrian Peterson, Spencer Ware. So I think if you had obviously those 3 starters, that you have your 2 wide receivers and your flex, then you'd be able to, Doug Martin obviously facing a suspension, but we expect him to be good. Adrian Peterson still shooting up boards. There's obviously a higher tier of starter quality available to you, which is why I think most people tend to abandon the ZRB much sooner than you did. So I commend you for sticking with it for the sake of the draft.
Problem. Unlike, well, I feel where you're going with this. That's why I'm about to say it. Unlike our other guy over here, we actually stick to what we talked about pre-show.
So with that brilliant transition, let's go ahead and move on to Jason Cabrera, who broke away from what we were doing as early as the 6th round. Jason, your thoughts on your team? How'd it work out for you?
Yeah, CJ followed the rules. It's the first time for everything.
That's true.
Let's talk about my team, I guess, since we want to save the worst for last. We'll leave Griffin for last. But
that's fair.
Going with my team, I got at quarterback, I got Carson Palmer. Running backs, my starting running backs, Marshawn Lynch and Joe Mixon. Wide receivers, Jordy Nelson, Michael Crabtree. In the flex, I got C.J. Anderson. At tight ends, Jimmy Graham. My bad. Kicker was Chris Boswell. My defense was Jacksonville Jaguars, and then on my bench, I got Kenneth Dixon, Joe Williams, Deshaun Jackson, Eric Decker, Quincy Enunwa, and Jordan Matthews.
So
to round out my bench.
To recap, obviously, what happened here and where this all went wrong, Jason's strategy was supposed to be super late quarterback and late tight end, but he could not pass up Jimmy Graham in the 6th round.
Okay, whoa. It wasn't that I couldn't pass him up. It's that I was into the draft and forgot the rules. And by the way, I mentioned what I was thinking when I started the round, and you two just sat there and let it happen and say words.
First of all,
I thought you were joking. I'm like, well, maybe he's just talking like that.
You didn't think
maybe he's just thinking out loud, but he knows. You know
when I'm joking, CJ. All right, so obviously, I was pretty happy with my selection of Jimmy Graham before I realized that I had grouped it up, and I honestly felt really bad about it because I wanted to see how it would have ended up had it gone on the way it was supposed to. But I did kind of get a glimpse of how that would have gone if I had waited on quarterback, because I did wait quite a bit on quarterback. Ended up picking up Carson Palmer late in the draft, which honestly I think it was a spectacular value for Carson Palmer. Had a rough year last year. Shut up, DJ. Had a rough year last year, and yet still threw for over 4,000 yards. It was still one of the top 4 quarterbacks in the last 5 weeks of the season. So he's an excellent option. It's a high volume offense. I think he's going to have a bounce back year this year. I think his receivers are all going to be healthy. So I think he's going to be very, very good this year.
Yeah. I was going to say, to point out some other players, like if in theory, if this had gone correctly and you hadn't grabbed Jimmy Graham in the 6th, you could have walked away with like a Golden Tate, a Dante Moncrief, Paul Perkins, Mark Ingram, and around the double digits, tight ends that were still available, which is surprising to me, which we'll get into. Players like Kyle Rudolph and Zach Ertz, were still available later.
Yeah, the only decent tight end after Jimmy Graham, honestly, that I even would have considered would have been Kyle Rudolph. Pretty much everybody else is garbage. Which is why I don't draft that way.
Shots.
This is why I don't draft that way.
Fired.
I don't like ending up with garbage tight ends. So anyway, moving on. Marshawn Lynch I took with my very first pick, and I know that was a big surprise to Griffin primarily. But honestly, I mean, you've got one of the better running backs over the past several years, running behind one of the best offensive lines, and he is moving up draft boards quite a bit recently, and I think he's going to end up being drafted in the 1st round. So I think that he, again, like I said, after the draft was over, I think I'm going to look like a genius at the end of the season because I think he's going to put up a lot of big numbers.
Well,
so I was actually...
Go ahead.
Let me talk about it first, Griffin, before you rip it apart.
No. I had a question though. I feel you about that. But what are people actually expecting from Marshawn Lynch? I mean, because it's kind of unfair to try to put him into the situation that he was 2 years ago, which he was actually the beast. He was phenomenal.
Yeah, but
is it easy, and is it fair to expect he's going to be that exact same player in this Raider offense?
No, but he's playing behind the best offensive line he's ever had, where even Latavius Murray got double-digit touchdowns, is the thing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, he's playing behind an amazing line, better than he's ever had before. He's had a year off to rest those legs. He's still in excellent shape. I don't see any reason why he couldn't repeat his some of his best performances, maybe even top some of his best performances.
Yeah. I just want to point out, of course, why it was shocking, because currently, in our consensus rankings, which I haven't updated yet, these will be updated, and then obviously we're almost in July, so after the July 4th weekend, our rankings will officially be live on the website, and they'll be updated at that point. We currently have him as our number 8 running back, where you took him as the number 4, and he's currently going as the number 10 running back, moving up draft boards, as you mentioned. So, surprising, because I wasn't expecting him to be as the 4th running back off the board, but, I mean, there's an argument to be made, and plus, this was a standard league, so, I mean, even more valuable. So, I don't hate it.
You mentioned the consensus rankings, but do you remember in my personal rankings, where I ranked him?
In the rankings, which I have not updated so far, you have him at 4. So, I mean, perfectly appropriate for where you drafted him. So, again.
So, you shouldn't have been shocked. You should have been like, oh, yeah, I figured.
I don't follow your rankings that closely. I follow my own rankings.
Yeah, whatever.
Wow.
I thought you knew everything, Griffin. My other running back that I took, I am a little concerned about, which is Joe Mixon. And the only reason I'm concerned about it is because he's a rookie, and we don't know exactly what to expect out of him. I expect great things from him. That's why I took him as my second running back. I really do think he's going to have a great year, and I really do think Cincinnati's going to lean on him more than what they look like they're going to. But the fact that he's a rookie, this is kind of an upside shot, a shot in the dark on him. So I'm not sad about where I took him. I'm just saying that I do worry about that pick, because it's like he's rook. I'm always concerned when I take a rookie.
I'm looking at your lineup. If you're that concerned about it, I think if you had Joe Mixon as a flex player, I think that's great. I think that's great upside. Right. You can't really go wrong if you have him in the flex, because you're basically like, look, he's in a perfect situation. I mean, the off the field issues we already talked about extensively, but the on the field performance, that kind of player that he is, what you're going to get out of him. And I know, and you saw the squalor that offense was in when it comes to that running game, especially with Giovanni Bernard being injured. Jeremy Hill was just not that guy. He just hasn't been that guy for like 2 years, since his rookie year. So I think Marvin Lewis knows what's going on. That's why they drafted this guy. And you don't draft that type of player with the history and the heat that was coming off of him around draft season, unless you're going to put him in the lineup and he's going to be productive. So I don't think you should be that too concerned about him basically getting playing time or the whole rookie tag. I think that rookie tag, I think it's only certain situations where I would actually bring that up in, and I can agree with you with that. But this one right here, I think it's just in name only.
Well, I will say
I would agree with that. That's why I took him in the third round. That's why I took him in the third round, because I would agree with that. But I can understand why some people would look at it and go, "That's a rookie. He's your second running back." But you know what? I rated this guy when we were looking at the draft. I rated this guy as the best running back coming out of the draft. And better than Leonard Fournette. And Leonard Fournette is flying up draft boards.
Oh yeah.
That dude, he went in the second round. So, and he's a rookie. So the question really remains: is he going to be the starter? I think he will be the starter eventually, for sure.
I mean, slight reach for Joe Mixon. He's going as a high 4th round pick, as a second pick in the 4th round, so not a crazy reach there. And to your point, Leonard Fournette's going in the middle of the 2nd round. So, Yeah, I would say that is the one thing that really concerns me about your team, though, is primarily, Marvin Lewis is not big on rookies. So, I mean, we all see it. The world sees it. Joe Mixon should be the starter there, especially with how Jeremy Hill's been playing. Giovanni Bernard probably not going to be back until a couple weeks into the season. So, it could work out great. But you have Marshawn Lynch, which has some question marks, though everything's looking great. Joe Mixon has some question marks. And then on your bench, you have Kenneth Dixon, who's suspended for 4 weeks, and Joe Williams, who is currently buried in the depth chart a little bit. So your running back core is a little bit scary to me. But other than that, I mean, I like your team. Obviously, I was going to say C.J. Anderson, your flex, is the one that you can adjust up and down and maybe move wide receivers in and out to make it work in the meantime. So I like the way your team worked out, especially that Jimmy Graham pick. Let's move on to my team real fast. So again, my team, I was going with the strategy, and this was all contrarian. So again, this was none of what we wanted to be doing. I was drafting with I want to say kind of a beginner style where you go out there and you draft your team. I want to fill out my starters. I want to get my lineup filled out, and then I'm going to start drafting bench guys. So I was going the early quarterback or early tight end, and the draft fell perfectly to me. That made me hate everything. So, obviously, my quarterback, I got Aaron Rodgers. He fell to me in the second. I have Ezekiel Elliott and Eddie Lacy. And I have Devontae Adams and Dante Moncrief as my wide receivers. In my flex, I have Paul Perkins. At my tight end, Rob Gronkowski fell to me in the third round. Kicker, Brian McManus, the Rams defense. On my bench, I have Terrence West, Jamal Williams, and so obviously Green Bay, who I believe will be the starting running back, not too far into this. Well, yeah, I mean, if I have Aaron Rodgers, why not double dip? And then on my bench, I also have John Brown, Mike Wallace, Josh Doxson, and Ted Ginn Jr. So I really like my team when it's all said and done, but I feel like I have a lot of uncertainty, especially at the wide receiver position. My running backs worked out nicely. Obviously, I have the best quarterback and best tight end in the league, so that those are guys who could give me week-winning performances, which is great. But my starting wide receivers have question marks. I'm expecting both of them to take a big jump this year, but that still remains to be seen. I just feel like I don't have that elite tier at my skill positions outside of Ezekiel Elliott right now. I have a lot of people who have that upside, but it's not yet been truly realized. So, I mean, when it's all said and done, like I said, I like my team, but it's got its question marks, and it could work out really well. This could be a very good team. You guys, what are your thoughts on my team?
I think you're gonna have to. On the surface, just as it is right now, I think it's okay. It's an okay team. I mean, your quarterback, you already know Aaron Rodgers. He's a beast. I like the Ezekiel Elliott pick, but your wide receivers, I'm really surprised at how much you despise this dude and how much he burned you. I'm really shocked and surprised that you actually picked Devontae Adams, and we talked about him thoroughly so many times, and what kind of player that he is, what he can be, what he's shown us, and yet you still picked him. So I think this is kind of like I don't know, you just like to get tortured by players. I don't know what was the deal with that. But
I like
I don't know what's wrong with him, but you do that thing. But then
like I said, when I was drafting him, it was a double dip with Aaron Rodgers, and I needed my number one wide receiver, and it was him who finished well last year and could take that next step, or I go Martavis Bryant, who we know is very, very good, but could be inconsistent. He could be suspended. He's one failed drug test away from being gone for the year, so I don't like that. I want my first 5 picks, because those are starters generally. I want my first 5 picks to be reliable. I want risk mitigation. So Martavis Bryant, that's scary to me as my number one wide receiver, and Sammy Watkins, who can't stay on the field. All reports are that he's very healthy, which is great, but as my number one wide receiver. And then Willie Snead and Brandon Marshall were the guys that were lumped in there with Devontae Adams. Now, Devontae Adams opened up the season as a second, third round pick, so I figured in the 4th round, that's pretty good value. And he's still going as a high-end 4th round, low-end 3rd round, so to get him late in the 4th, I thought that was decent return on value. And again, paired with Aaron Rodgers, it was the lesser of two evils, I guess is the way to put it. I don't love it. I mean, my starting wide receivers, of course, Devontae Adams and Dante Moncrief, are both young receivers who need to take that next step, and as of right now, they're very touchdown dependent, which makes them pretty boom-bust, which is not the way I like to build, especially the core of my team. Those are guys I like to work into my flex, depending on what I need week in and week out. So not wild about the way this all played out. I do like my team, but uncertainties. The Aaron Rodgers pick and the Rob Gronkowski pick definitely hurt me in the stud department for running backs and wide receivers. So that's my takes.
I don't know about running backs. I mean, you got Ezekiel Elliott. Obviously, that's in my rankings. He's the second best option at running back. And Eddie Lacy, who I think is going to surprise some people this year. I mean, the guy is a really high average of yards per carry. And I think that's going to carry over really well into Seattle. I still think, I know I'm hearing all that timeshare crap coming out of Seattle. I don't believe it. I think Eddie Lacy is going to be the number one guy.
I agree.
And then you got Paul Perkins, who's the starter for the Giants, and I think he's going to turn some heads this year. And you got him in your flex. So that's all good. And then, of course, you got Jamal Williams, who, as we mentioned, very well could be the starter in Green Bay this year because Ty Montgomery, you don't know what to expect from him, and by your own admission, the starter in Baltimore, Terrence West. So I understand your feelings about it, And in the wide receiver positions, you got a lot of really good mid-tier talent. I mean, you got John Brown, who, as we've talked about extensively, has the opportunity to be a high-end 2, maybe even a low-end 1.
Oh, yeah.
Doxson, we've talked about. We've talked about Tengen Jr., who could very well be a 1, high 2, late 1. So you've got a lot of really good depth. It's just you don't have a marquee name at your wide receiver position. I think that's
exactly
the main problem.
My starter situation caused me to lean my entire draft for upside picks. Every single one of these guys, I think, has the opportunity to maybe be a breakout candidate. I didn't grab a lot of high floor guys, but a lot of these guys that could have a seriously high ceiling, especially if things fall the right way, an injury happens in front of them. Like we said, we talked about this in previous shows. None of us think that Ty Montgomery is going to maintain that starting role throughout the season. He wasn't able to do it last year. He doesn't have the frame for it. I mean, he's very talented, but he's probably going to get hurt. And then Jamal Williams, I believe, will be that guy. He is the heir to Eddie Lacy. That's the way he was drafted. That's his intangibles. That's the way we all think it's going to play out. So that's a great depth pick. Paul Perkins, criminally underrated. He's the whole running game in New York right now, and I can move him in and out depending on what happens with Eddie Lacy, with other upside wide receivers. Home run hitter and John Brown. Obviously, I love that, and he's on my bench right now. So I think I could do some serious damage with this team, but I think this team, the main thing is that it's going to be a little bit more boom bust than what I'm accustomed to. But, like you said, a lot of good guys, but that's because I drafted for upside. So now that we've kind of recapped the teams, let's dive into some things that stood out to us from the draft. One thing that stood out to me, and I'm intrigued to see your take on it, guys. Dalvin Cook, he was drafted not 1, not 2, but 3 rounds ahead of Latavius Murray, who as of right now, most accounts are saying that Latavius Murray is going to be the starter. They paid him big money, pretty big money. He got a sizable contract to go to Minnesota to be the starter before they drafted Dalvin Cook. So at the very least, we're expecting this to be some sort of timeshare. Why do you think the rookie is going in the 5th round while Latavius Murray is sitting there in the 8th round? Could this be a wide receiver in Oakland with Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree type situation where you just kind of wait on the latter guy for return on value? Because we don't know the way this is going to play out. We think Dalvin Cook's obviously the better, more talented runner, but contract for Murray and opportunity and being a veteran, it's an interesting situation. What are your guys' thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think we talked about this one in an episode about the whole situation with this right there. I think the talent and the versatility you have in Dalvin Cook is why the Vikings took him, and I think that he's going to be a guy that's going to be getting the carries. He's going to be getting in the passing game, and then when it gets down to that red zone, that's what I think Latavius Murray is going to be making his money. Just basically vulturing. So it's going to be a vulturing system. It's probably going to be kind of like, what was it, a year ago? Like, yeah, was it last year or the year before that with Shanahan with Freeman and Coleman? You know what I mean? Freeman would get the bulk of the touches, get the ball down there, and then Coleman would be down there vulturing touchdowns from him. So I think that's the situation you're probably going to see with this team, and I'm not really surprised about it. I know the money is there with Murray, but the talent is definitely with Cook.
So you think Murray's going to be the red zone back more?
Yeah, basically.
And I could see that, absolutely. Jason, what do you think?
Bottom line is Latavius Murray was with one of the best offensive lines in the league last year.
Top 3?
He couldn't muster more than 700 or 800 yards. He did 788 yards. Yeah, he missed a couple games, but still,
he was banged up.
He should have been much, much, much higher in the yardage. The only thing that was his saving grace is he had 12 touchdowns, and that was nice to see. But the bottom line is, I think that this proves that no one believes in Latavius Murray as the guy, And Dalvin Cook, when he was drafted, there was talk of him being, first round talent, one of the top 3 guys, one of the top 2 guys at one point. So I think it's definitely understood that this guy is your guy. He's going to be the guy there. Now the question is, when is that going to happen? I think Murray's going to start. So the fact that it's been 3 rounds before Murray gets picked up, as Dalvin Cook goes, might be a bit of a reach. But at the end of the season, I think it'll look the opposite.
Well, like you said, Dalvin Cook, I mean, when we entered draft season, he was being listed as the number 1 running back, obviously with Leonard Fournette right behind him, Joe Mixon, the off-the-field issues, not knowing where he was going to land. Now, in ADP, they're much closer, where Dalvin Cook's going at the top of the 6th and Latavius Murray in the back of the 7th.
Right.
So timeshare, uncertainty, and the one thing that you kind of alluded to, amazing offensive line in Oakland for Latavius Murray, but now both of these guys are running behind a really bad run-blocking offensive line in Minnesota. So, I mean, it's maybe if they're doing 2-back sets, maybe that creates openings for one of these guys to really thrive. I mean, Dalvin Cook, we know, is a very capable pass catcher, so maybe he's used more in that way as well. It's a lot of uncertainty, so it's really going to be depending on training camp to really see how this plays out to me, because as it is right now, I'm expecting this to be maybe, we've heard some rumors of this, like they're alternating series, which is murder for fantasy football.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So
Terrible as a player, too. You can't get no rhythm.
Absolutely. So just something that stood out to me, especially because in ADP they're going closer, which I think is the way it's probably going to go more commonly, obviously because that's their ADP when we get to actual drafts. But that was a notable gap that I thought had to be addressed. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next, man. So here's my thing. I know we talked about this, and I'm kind of directing it to Jason, but Griffin, you can chime in, man. So.
Right.
I know we've been really high on Isaiah Correll, and he went the bottom of the 2nd round by that guy that was in our mock draft, YG. So, and a guy that went before him was Todd Gurley, and a couple guys that went behind him was Devontae Freeman, Lamar Miller, Christian McCaffrey, and Joe Mixon. So I just want to know, Jason, with those other names, and even with Todd Gurley in front of him, man, is Isaiah Correll up there for this year, and he should he be looked at as one of those top guys? And shouldn't even Joe Mixon, a guy that we've been talking about, should he be drafted a little higher than Isaiah Correll just because of the situation?
Is Isaiah Crowell someone that I'm going to be looking at in the 2nd round? Yes, especially given the fact that if you look at where he was drafted as a running back 2. I think that is excellent value for him because I think he's gonna end this season as a 1. He got very close to being a 1 last season. He ended as the 14th overall running back. Again, behind a garbage offensive line on a crap team. The guy still scored 7 touchdowns and ran for 952 yards. And as we've mentioned, he keeps going up and up and up. So I think his progression, especially with an updated offensive line, a better team, a better defense that's going to put them in situations where they're going to be able to actually run the ball more. Yeah, I definitely think you look at Isaiah Crowell as being one of those second round picks. You know, if you can get him in the 3rd round, that's fantastic. But I say he's going to go in the 2nd round probably. As far as Joe Mixon, the uncertainty with him being a rookie is the only thing that's going to keep him down. As good as I think Isaiah Crowell is, Joe Mixon's going to be better. But this year, I think there's going to be some waiting on him just because of his rookie status. So overall, I think it kind of played out the way it should.
Bottom line, for starters, he went as the 13th running back off the board here. So, like you said, running back 2 and winded up as a running back 2 for the guy who drafted him. He's currently going as the 14th running back off the board as the 4th pick in the 3rd round. In our consensus rankings that we did a couple months ago, we had him as our 16th, but I know he has moved up quite a few spots since then, and we'll get into that down the line with our updated consensus rankings episodes and things, and it'll be available on the website and so on and so forth. I'm comfortable with it, and the thing is, though, I think he's going to continue to drop for a number of reasons. People are going to get much higher on these rookies as soon as they see one flash, so these guys are going to start moving up boards, while players like Isaiah Crowell, which haven't exactly blown the doors off anybody as we're getting into more casual people mock drafting and drafting, most of the people who are mock drafting right now are people like us, people like you, the guys who are listening right now, the hardcore fantasy fans who know the upside of Isaiah Crowell. They see the opportunity, the change in Cleveland, so that's why he's moving up a lot of our boards. But I think, again, your casual people who are 80-90% of the fantasy players out there, they're going to see Isaiah Crowell. They're going to put him down as their running back 22, and he's going to start dropping down board. So this guy could be a steal for us because I honestly believe he went in the 2nd round here, last pick in the 2nd round. But if if we can't pick him up as a 4th-round pick by the time we actually get into draft season, I would be honestly kind of surprised just on name value. And that is going to be an amazing steal for a guy that I know, Jason, you and I, we both agree he definitely has that opportunity to be a running back 1. CJ, are you quite there yet, or are you kind of on the fence about it still?
Yeah, the more I talk to Jason, looking at the lay of the land when it comes to Cleveland, I absolutely believe that's going to be the case, especially with the quarterback situation. I absolutely believe they're going to rely heavily on him. He's going to be, kind of like that Jordan Howard role.
Yep.
They're going to rely heavily on him just because they want to take the pressure off their quarterback. So he's growing on me more and more as the days get closer to draft season.
With a much updated offensive line. So we'll see how it plays out, but he could be a steal for us people who have been here through the offseason. Jason, what's your point?
Well, Julio Jones went as the number 1 wide receiver off the board at the pick number 4. Now I'm not mad at the fact that Julio Jones went in the 1st round. He's obviously going to go in the 1st round, as we've mentioned many a times. This guy is probably the best pure wide receiver in the league. My problem is the fact that he went as number 1 overall. That's just disrespectful to Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown has been holding it down as the number 1 guy for a couple of years, and
not number 1 overall, but the top wide receiver. Yeah,
is the top wide receiver. Yeah. I'm sorry, excuse me, as the top wide receiver in the league several years. And the bottom line with Julio Jones is that he is extremely inconsistent. He'll have 1 great game and then 2 crap games, and then 2 pretty good games, and then another crap game and another crap game, then a fantastic game, and then another crap game. If this is your number 1 guy, your number 1 receiver, he needs to be consistent. And if you're in the top 5, you need to pick somebody that is going to be consistent throughout the season, not just he'll have boom bust games. I don't like it. I would have taken Antonio Brown there in a heartbeat.
I mean, to me, the reason I think he went number 1, I think a lot of people look at the Super Bowl and the playoff run of the Falcons and what they did in the Super Bowl, and that's the guy that they want to see week in and week out in fantasy football. Right. But the thing is, you're not really getting that dude. You're not going to get that dude. He's playing just like Jason says. He's going to have a great week. He'll be disappear for 2 weeks, have another great week, disappear, and it's too erratic and it's too spread out with his game. I mean, he's a great talent on the field, but his game is too spread out, and you can't really predict what's going to happen. On the other hand, it's a little better situation. I mean, I can see arguments being said the same for Antonio Brown, not just on his play, but just the play of his quarterback. His quarterback has been struggling right now with these home road splits. So I mean, if those weren't a thing, then hands down, you're saying Antonio Brown is that dude, and you can probably even throw Odell Beckham into the mix. But I think people are getting sucked up to that playoff run the Falcons had, and that's why he's basically getting taken number 1 wide receiver.
Now, I agree with everything you guys have said as well. And yeah, he could be the best pure receiver in the league, but I have him statted out currently as my number 5 wide receiver in standard, number 3 in PPR. I've got him as, getting just over 1,350 yards and 8 touchdowns because I'm believing the hype that they're going to try and get him more involved in the red zone, which is something that has been the big knock for him in fantasy. But I can even bump him up to 9 touchdowns. And of course, touchdowns are the most volatile thing to try and predict in statting out guys. And he still wouldn't move up my draft boards. So, and just because I have him missing time, he's always banged up. I have him missing a game. Actually, I have him missing 2 games currently. And the Falcons have shown that they are not afraid to use him as a diversion, which is murder to you in fantasy. He was one of the most inconsistent wide receivers. And we talked about this, this must have been like 2 months ago when we were doing 3 months ago maybe when we were doing our recaps of the season, where if you take out that 300-yard game that he had, most people don't realize this. If you take out that one game where he had an insane performance, he finished as a wide receiver 2. So That was a huge drop in points. So, I mean, Julio Jones, amazing talent, and new offensive coordinator. We don't know how they're going to use him, if that's going to affect the production. So, does he have the ceiling to be the fantasy wide receiver 1? Absolutely. Do I believe that that's a safe pick to make? And if I'm making my pick at first wide receiver off the board, is it going to be Julio Jones? Never. So, it was surprising to me as well, but I can understand why it happened.
I can as well.
Any other points? You guys want to move on?
We'll move on.
All right, let's move on.
We're good. Moving on.
Let's move on to a point that kind of, to me, and Jason, you reap the benefits here, which is why I am a firm believer in waiting late on quarterback. Carson Palmer, which you took in the 12th round, was the 17th quarterback off the board. And we're talking about a guy who was a top 5 fantasy quarterback back in 2015. His weapons are coming back healthy. This is the kind of value, because the quarterback position is insanely deep this year. And with that, of course, you can find these values. If you take Carson Palmer and guys who were going around him like Matthew Stafford, Tyrod Taylor, Andy Dalton, they were all going around that same range. If I grab one or two of those guys, or just even Carson Palmer, and then stream on his bad matchups and bye weeks, I feel very comfortable drafting. So I loved, and I know we kind of touched about this before, so I don't want to dwell on it, but I loved your pickup of Carson Palmer in the 12th round. And to me, that just further solidifies my drafting style and why I do it that way. Did that kind of impact your thought process? Because I know, like we've talked about extensively, you prefer to grab one of those more sure things higher up in your drafts. But Carson Palmer in the 12th, how did that impact your thought process, Jason?
Of course, it doesn't impact my thought process, man. You're not gonna convince me.
I'm not trying to.
Process.
I'm not trying to.
The only
he's trying to Obi-Wan you, man. He's trying to Obi-Wan.
This is the strategy you want to use.
Look. Carson Palmer is this show is a perfect example, okay? He is a very polarizing figure. Some of us think that he is fantastic. He throws for over 4,000 yards every season like clockwork. Only quarterback in history to do that with 3 different teams. At one point was the number 1 overall guy. I mean, he is very good, but then he's had seasons where it's been rough. He's been hurt a lot.
Right.
His weapons have let him down. Michael Floyd dropping balls all over the field. Sickle cell for John Brown. So he's a very polarizing figure. That's the only reason he dropped as far as he dropped. Now, if you look at the guys that came right around him, okay, Andy Dalton, no, I wouldn't go with Andy Dalton. Matthew Stafford, maybe, but not for another round or two with Matthew Stafford. Tyrod Taylor, no, because I don't like a quarterback that plays for a team that doesn't believe in it. And I know that sounds weird, but to me that impacts the way they play. I think that Kirk Cousins is going to be a much better quarterback when he gets somewhere that believes in him.
The front office has invested in him, though, the new regime. And, double-digit quarterbacks. We'll see.
But he's not staying.
We'll see.
He feels it. I mean, he knows what's happening there. He can see it. And that's why they're saying he's already talking about, I'm not going to pick up my option with these guys if they offer it to me. So they've disrespected him for years, and now he wants to move on. But I digress from my point. My point is, does it change the way I think? No. Okay. I'm still going to draft the quarterback that I am comfortable with in the 6th, 7th, maybe even 8th round, depending on who's there. And that's my version of letting the draft come to me. I completely trust Carson Palmer. I completely trust him. And if I end up taking him, I'll be ecstatic with that pick because I think he's going to be great. Okay, but that's only if he drops that far. The chances of him dropping that far next year probably will be, if he plays next year, probably will be minuscule because he's going to have a great year this year.
All right. But, not to disagree with you, but just to make a point for people who can't see the way the draft fell, double-digit quarterbacks, which is when I start thinking about it, guys who went in that range, Marcus Mariota, Dak Prescott, Jameis Winston, Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, Carson Palmer, Matthew Stafford, all guys I'd be very happy to roster that late, with which I think a number of them have quarterback 1 upside, and definitely quarterback 1 on a weekly basis upside, week to week, streaming the matchups. And, these guys are available super, super late. These are guys that I think we're all relatively high on, and, I'm getting them after I've gotten a lot of other stuff. Maybe not as much as you, but I think all these guys have that upside that they are able to return on value here. And if I grab 1 or 2, play the matchups, it is comfortable I mean, I win many leagues doing this strategy. It's very easy to do. Just looking at what the bad quarterback matchups are.
Jameis Winston.
The first year I didn't win
Winston,
it.
I was shocked. Yeah, right. And who won? Oh yeah. Jameis Winston, I was shocked that he went as late as he did. I actually thought that he was going to go a bit higher. And same thing with Mariota, given all of the weapons that those guys have added to their team. And Phillip Rivers in the 11th shocked me to no end. I was like, how in the world?
I was trying to draft him. They freaking computer.
But these are the guys that are going to be there. This is kind of around their ADPs. That's my whole point. But we got to move on. I'm telling you what their ADPs are.
If I could just add in real quick, I would say this. I agree with Griffin. This is if you're the depth as a quarterback in the fantasy football this year is absolutely incredible. You can go early if you want to with the elite guys with Tom Brady, Rodgers, Drew Brees, or you can go late rounders like the Staffords, Kirk Cousins, Jameis Winston, Phillip Rivers. Those two last guys I think are gonna have an incredible year this year. So it ties into another point we made in a couple shows before ago that you want to draft people that you like. You know what I mean? So you want to get guys that you like, and as a quarterback position, I think that's up there with the running backs. You don't want to be just drafting a guy that's you don't really care about or like that just because they're high on people's consensus. You don't like the dude,
right? You
put him in there, you're gonna hate your team. So I think quarterback is right up there. So I get Griffin's strategy, but yet again, I think you see a guy that you like that's there, and if he just happens to be in the late round, hey, guess what? You lucked out. You followed the strategy, but yet at the end of the day, you still got a guy that you like.
Well, like we said, you want to draft the guys you like. You don't want to be losing to players you hate. That's the worst.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, like last year, Matt Ryan was going super late. He was almost undrafted. If you drafted him, odds are you won your league, as you were probably stacked elsewhere on your roster. So I mean, I won a number of leagues with him. So, but no, we got to keep moving. We're already running out of time. So, CJ, your next point.
My next point is Amari Cooper, man. He went on the bottom of the second. Now, he was drafted as a number one receiver. But my question is this, and I'm posing to you guys. I'll pose to you, Griffin, first. What is Amari Cooper this season, man? Is he a candidate for the Michael Floyd Award? I mean, because a couple years ago, Michael Floyd, we had this dude, Jason. He's not a part of you no more, Jason. I talked to you about that.
We're not talking about the Cardinals anymore.
Stop taking offense to that. He has nothing to do with you no more. Okay. So listen, Griffin. I'm sorry. Is he going to be a candidate for that award? Because a couple years ago, when Michael Floyd, when he was with the Cardinals, he came off a good season, 6 touchdowns, had some good receptions and good yards, and this was prime for him to be able to step up, get a good contract with the Cardinals, go out there. And what did he do? He was a total bust. So I'm just saying, we've already seen the flow of what's going on. Amari Cooper had a decent, really good rookie season. Second season, so-so. But the guy that's been there in that offense has been a good connection with Derek Carr, and that's been flowing, and it's been consistent in the offense. It's Michael Crabtree. Why is it that Amari Cooper is going up higher than Michael Crabtree?
It's because people are trying to capitalize on his ceiling, what we see in flashes. They hope he takes that next step. As we always talk about, the magical third year, which this will be for him. So, I mean, the opportunity is there. The offensive line, still solid. Derek Carr, back and healthy, looking good in camp. They've added more weapons to that offense to help, draw coverage away from him. They've upgraded the running game so they can't, drop back into coverage as much. The opportunity for him to break out this year is absolutely there. But he was one of the most inconsistent top-tier wide receivers last year, so that's why, to me, second round is really a steep price to pay. Where, again, we wait 2 rounds later and we can pick up Michael Crabtree, who is much more consistent. He may not be as flashy, he may not have that week-winning upside and high ceiling, but his floor is very high, and he's finished above Amari Cooper both the 2 years they've both been in Oakland. So, I mean, that's why I take the approach of drafting whichever one goes later, and 90% of the time, 99% of the time, it's going to be Michael Crabtree, which if I'm taking in the 4th round, most likely as my wide receiver 2, depending on my strategy, maybe my wide receiver 3 flex player, that's amazing value, and I will happily take that. But for Amari Cooper, yes, he could easily flop. He could get hurt. He could go out there and pull a Keenan Allen for all we know. So you never truly know, and that's the thing with fantasy football. But the upside is definitely there for him to return on that second round value. But as I mentioned earlier on, I draft for risk mitigation in the early rounds, and Amari Cooper, there is a lot of risk associated with him, so that's a problem that I'm probably going to let someone else deal with personally. Jason, what are your thoughts?
I think along the same kind of lines. I mean, this is one of those guys that is just going to be rated high. There's nothing you can do about it. He's just going to be rated higher than really what you think he should be rated. And same thing with me. If I'm drafting at 5, right, and Julio Jones gets taken at 4, I'm ecstatic. I'm like, good. Overdraft Julio Jones. That gives me a chance to pick up the best wide receiver in football. So I look at it like this. I'm like, Amari Cooper goes in the second round, fantastic. That's going to give me a shot at guys like Allen Robinson, guys like Doug Baldwin, guys that are going to have a higher floor and have an opportunity to also capitalize on a decent ceiling. Maybe not as high a ceiling as Amari Cooper, but still a decent high ceiling.
Right, and a round later where you're looking at your second wide receiver most likely, where people drafting Amari Cooper in the second round are probably looking at him as their first wide receiver. All right, Jason, what was your point? What's your next point?
Next point, Willie Snead taken in the 5th, full round before Golden Tate. That kind of surprised me that he'd be taken in the 5th. Now, re-looking at it again, and it was CJ that took him. CJ took him as his 4th wide receiver because of the 0 RB
strategy.
So at first I was like, why in the world? And then I'm looking like, oh, it's his 4th wide receiver. So it's, but still,
just following the plan that that was put in front of us.
Right. I mean, you could have taken a Golden Tate, and I think that's a better option than Willie Snead. I mean, do you not agree?
I mean, on paper, absolutely, I agree with you. But when I'm looking, and with me, when I draft players, man, I'm looking at the potential. I look at the situation, and then another big part of it is the schedule. Detroit has a very, very tough schedule this season, man. It's looking pretty bad. So when I start to look into that a little more, that has me a little nervous about Golden Tate. I know I talked about him before as a guy that you should probably look at, and he needs to be rising the boards. And I'm not changing my stance when it comes to that. But when I look at my team, and say that was a round after that, and he was still there, and that was my 5th receiver, I probably would have took him just because of the value there and the potential.
Right.
But for that round, I went with the short thing and a better situation that I liked. That's what I went with Willie Snead there.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about two guys who are going very, very close together based on their ADP. Golden Tate's going late in the 6th, Willie Snead high in the 7th. And you're talking about a number 1 receiver in his offense for a number 2 receiver in his offense. But that number 2, Willie Snead, is also on a much more efficient passing offense. They're both high volume offenses, but I mean, I will take Drew Brees as my quarterback 10 times out of 10 over Matt Stafford. I mean, you can make a debate maybe when he's on the road, outdoors, in the elements, maybe. But we know that he's going to get volume and quality targets with Drew Brees, so you could really make this argument either way. Golden Tate, they've got new weapons there. They're going to try and commit more to the run. The offensive line, they already lost their left tackle and had to bring someone else in. So things are starting to already derail slightly in Detroit. So I'm comfortable either way.
Are you okay with Willie Snead in the 5th round?
Probably not. I wouldn't probably take him before the 6th round, but it's case by case. It depends on what my team needs are, because he's currently going in the 7th, right. Like I said, high in the 7th, second pick in the 7th round. But with CJ's strategy, he had a lot of solid guys, and he was looking for more home run hitters. So in that case, for CJ's team, I love the pick. It's great. He's not looking for high floor guys because he got a lot of those. He's looking for another guy who could be another week winning performer for him, and I think he nailed that. Yeah. Well, we're basically out of time already. Do you guys want to just list off something really fast that shocked you and move on? I'll just point out,
you know what? Why don't you list off your last 3, Griffin, and then CJ list off your last 3. I'll list off my last 3.
All right.
I was thinking that we maybe just carry this over to the post show. We got more. Why not?
Or maybe we'll we'll talk these points more on next week, on Tuesday's show. We could do a lot of things. I'll just say one thing that stood out to me was we talk about late tight ends. Julius Thomas in the 15th round. a guy who I have rated as a top 10 tight end right now. Of course, this is all saying that he stays healthy. I wouldn't dare say that he does that without staying healthy, but I currently have him ranked as my number 9 tight end in the 15th round. I'm just saying that kind of solidifies for me why I wait on certain positions, and there you go. CJ, you.
Me, man, Spencer Ware going in the 4th. That's just way too high for me still, man. I think this is a guy that needs to be in the sixth round, the earliest. You need to be looking at him. I've talked about it before, man. I just think the situation is already primed and ready for Kareem Hunt to take over. And Spencer Ware, I don't really believe that they believe in him this year for him to be that guy for them.
Yep. Jason.
I am going to go with, I guess I'll stay on your tight end train, give you more ammunition for your ridiculous ideas.
Brilliant
Rudolph,
ideas.
Went in the 11th round. That seems a bit
ridiculous
to me. A little bit late, a little bit ridiculous to me. He definitely, the guy had a fantastic year. He definitely should have gone higher. He's going to be great. With Bradford, so yeah, I was shocked to see him still available in the 11th round.
He finished really high as a tight end 1 last year, and no love for him in this mock draft. So
Hunter Henry went before him too. It's crazy.
O.J. Howard, who's in a timeshare, went before him. So anyway, that's going to do it for us today. Make sure you guys tune in on Tuesday, where we're going to be talking about some tips and tricks for new fantasy football players, and we'll probably throw in some advanced recommendations as well for the returning people, because we're getting a lot of new listeners. We want to welcome any new listeners to the show, people who are new to fantasy football. We're going to give you some of the common mistakes players that make, new players especially, things we recommend to do to increase your chances, ways to approach situations, tips and tricks. That's what it is. Like we said, if you want to compete against us in fantasy football, all you have to do is head over to iTunes, give us a rating, give us a review, automatically submitted to be randomly selected to play against us in our iTunes Listener Review Challenge. Just make sure you leave an email or a Twitter handle at the end of your review so we can reach you if you are selected and you get a chance to play. If you want to support the show, head over to patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Get yourself a bonus episode every single week. Obviously, generally much more advanced topics that we get into over there. It's really fun, a lot of good stuff, a good community. The few people that have signed up over there we're constantly interacting with and answering questions. It's productive. People like it. Again, you'll be able to find all these rankings after the weekend at thefantasyfootballfanatics.com as well, and subscribe wherever you are. We're here every Tuesday and Friday through the off season, through the regular season. It's just the easiest way. We come right to your phone. It's amazing. And you can follow us on Twitter at the FF Fanatics. Keep up with the show, or individually, I'm at GPalmerFFF. CJ is at CJ Hickman 89. Jason is at Jason Cabrera 13. And we're moving on to our post show, YouTube exclusive, found at youtube.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Today, it's generally an off-topic thing. If you want to get to know us more, you can head over there and check that out. We're going to be talking about our 4th of July plans. So we'll see how crazy we plan on getting on a holiday weekend. So that's going to do for us. We are out of here. Everyone, take care. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Tuesday. Bye.
Life in the fast lane, moving at the speed of life, and I can't slow down. Only got a gallon in the gas tank, but I'm almost at the finish line, so I can't stop now. I don't really know where I'm headed, just enjoying the ride. Don't roll till I drop and ride till I die. I'm living life in
We'll be back before the 4th, won't we?
My birthday was last month.
Oh.